man is back.
Oh, okay, boys. Oh my gosh, the man got that stuff. This is a 5 out of freaking 5.
It is beat making time.
Next week is E3 week. My album comes out next week.
I have the leopard. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But look at that, my God.
This is your boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube citizens, y'all know who this is. This is your boy, Dash the True Inferno. Back at it with another Call of Duty Black Ops 6 commentary video gameplay for you guys, and we got a lot to talk about here. So, in case you've been living under a rock, it is now official. The rumors are true. The Switch 2 is real. So, here's the deal. We know that it is coming out June the 5th, and at that moment, I would be out of town. So, I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But that's actually the least of, just my worries, rather. But that's the least of your worries as well. Yes, you heard me right. I said your worries. So why is that? Why is that? Well, let's talk about it. So the Switch 2 is apparently going to be a better console than the Switch outside of the battery span, where the battery life will last for like, what? I think it's 2 to 6 hours, which is similar to or worse than the original Switch, which is interesting. So there's that. And aside from that, though, there's a lot of good things about the Switch 2 that, you know, people need to take note of. Now, more importantly, let's talk about the Direct. So they did a Direct. I'm going to briefly talk about the Direct because this is actually some interesting stuff. So when they was presenting all this stuff on the Nintendo Direct that was solely towards the Switch 2 and the games that will be on the Switch 2, the one thing that they did not mention at all for anything that they showcased on their Switch 2 Direct was the prices. The price for the Switch 2, they didn't say. The price for their Joy-Cons, they didn't say. The price, they even got a game camera. They didn't even say the price for that. The games, they didn't give a price for that. They gave a price for absolutely, positively nothing doing the Switch 2, which is a bad sign. It really, really is. But we all learned the truth about the prices later on, but there's a little bit of confusion of sorts. So before I give you the prices for everything, let me just say this. There's some articles and some people out there saying that, oh, they're coming out with prices for a digital version and a physical version. And I'm like, dumbasses, if you were to actually read or go to Nintendo's website, whatever the case may be, those different prices for digital, physical, whatever, that's for Europe. That's for somewhere in Europe, because the original article that had that crap, I forgot, I think it was Inside Gamer, I think that's what it was, but they was the one who broke that little bit of insight or whatever. Yeah, Insider Gaming, that is. They're the one who broke that little insight about that crap. And here's what they say. Here's what they say. It looked like did they change the title? They look like they changed the title. But I don't know, maybe it's a different title I'm looking at. But check this out. It has been announced that the price for the games on the Nintendo Switch 2 will set players back up to $80, but things have become even more steep for players in different regions. The price increase have affected European players particularly hard, with Nintendo Switch 2 games costing 80 euros for a digital copy in Europe, while physical would be for 90 euros. So, okay. That's what they say there. Now, this ain't the exact article that I want to reference here. There was another article that they put out with. Maybe they actually changed it because they were being called out on it by a lot of people online, myself included. But they were literally advertising this as if that it was going to be $80 for digital games and $90 for physical games. And that was in the US. And when I read the article, it's like, no, it's not. That's not accurate. Like, what the hell y'all talking about? So, by the looks of this, they look like they smarten up, and for the most part anyway, and they kind of switched the title up at the very least. But I scroll down to the article and I see this little thing in terms of one of their last paragraphs where they said, what do you think the Nintendo Switch 2 game price being $80 for digital games rather, and up to $90 for physical? And I'm like, that's not accurate. What the heck are you talking about? Well, it is to a degree accurate in Europe, But that's not accurate in America because they actually have the USD symbol on there when I mention those prices. So let's get something straight here. In America, they will not be doing different prices for digital or physical or anything like that. So apparently that's only for Europe. So there's absolutely positively nothing for you to worry about. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Now, let's talk about the price for the system. The price for the system is slightly more than what people thought it would be originally, because most people, like myself included, thought it would be $400. Instead, now all this is USD. I'm not sure about outside the country, but all this is for USD. But instead, the system by itself is $450. While they are coming out with a Mario Kart World Bundle, that one will be $500. Now, I'm gonna let you guys know right here, right now, if y'all plan on getting that Mario Kart version, you want that bundle. You want the bundle. You do not want to get those two separately. Like, if you know for a fact that you're getting that, unless you're waiting for like a Nintendo Switch 2 limited edition, like it may be like a Pokemon Legends ZA edition, because that's coming out later that year. It may be a Metro Prime edition, maybe a Zelda edition, or a different Mario edition, something like that. Okay, fine, so be it. But if you're planning on getting that Mario Party Jamboree or Mario Party World, Mario Kart World, excuse me, and you want to get that Nintendo Switch 2 as soon as they drop, you want the bundle. Now, I'm gonna ignore the prices for everything else, like the camera and the Joy-Cons and stuff like that. We are focusing on the games. We are focusing on the games. Because Mario Kart World is $80. Yeah. So, let me set the stage for you real quick. If you're buying all this stuff separately, the system is $450 and the game is $800. So that would be a grand total of $530. Whereas, if you were to buy the bundle, which is again $500, you're saving $30. That's why I say you want the bundle. And Mario Kart World comes out day one. And now, here's where things get really interesting. They also advertising a Nintendo Switch 2 World Tour, which is, I guess, it's like a online manual guide towards how the Nintendo Switch 2 works and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Normally, something like that would be free. Normally, it would come with the system. Nintendo charging $10 for that crap. I'm like, are you serious? And there was some type of video, I forgot whose video it was, whether they were trying to justify it or they were talking about Nintendo justifying that price. But I'm like, there's no justifying that crap. Like, that's not a real game. Why are you charging $10 for that crap? Also, moving on though, Donkey Kong Bonanza, the newest Donkey Kong game that showcased Donkey Kong's new look. He's still a bitch ass, but nevertheless, that game is $70. So they are flip-flopping with these prices. Now, there are other games, or really, there are updated versions or upgraded versions of some of these games that are coming out. So, for example, The Legend of Zelda's Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, one of them is $70 while the other is $80. I don't remember which is which. The Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, if you never owned Super Mario Party Jamboree on the Switch and you're just going straight for that for Switch 2, that's $80. Kirby and the Forgotten Land plus Star Cross World, if you're trying to get that on the Switch 2, because you didn't own the original Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the Switch, that's $80. So keep all that in mind. Keep all that in mind. Now, to do these upgrades, if you already own, like, for example, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom or Super Mario Party Jamboree or Kirby and the Forgotten Land, and you want to get them upgrades, and at the very least, I know for Jamboree TV and Star Cross World, both of those will be $10. So they taking the page out of Sony book with the whole upgrade fiasco to a degree. There's going to be other games that are coming out for the Switch, like Street Fighter 6, NBA 2K25, WWE 2K25. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Just yeah. And here's the thing. So it's bad enough that these games are now they trying to charge $80 for some of these games. But it's funny because doing that, they also had a Treehouse event that they live streamed, like literally the next 2 days after they showcased the Switch 2. People was pulling up in the chat, was like, yo, drop the price, lower the price. Like, they're trying to get them to change the price of their games and their systems. My main concern is the games, because $80 for games, that's crazy. I am aware that Grand Theft Auto 6 may come out and it may cost $100, which is still crazy. But all these Nintendo games that potentially could cost $80, it's crazy. It's crazy. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of the end for console gaming. It is. It really, really, really is. Now, before we move on to why I think that is, we need to talk about another scenario. So you remember how I said that the Switch 2 will cost $450 and the Mario Kart World Bundle will cost $500? Well, that might change. Because here's the deal. Originally, so like I said, the system is currently stated to come out basically in 2 months from now, which is June the 5th, which is a Thursday, which is a weird day for anything to come out a Thursday. However, here's the thing. Pre-orders for the system supposed to be starting out Wednesday, April the 9th. So that may be the case for all around the world, but if you live in America, however, that's not the case. That pre-orders have been held back. Now you're probably wondering, what happened? Why did this happen? What's going on here? Well, the problem is this. The problem goes by the name of Donald Trump. So y'all probably heard this around from time to time. Terrorists. Now you're probably wondering, what is that? So I'm not exactly an expert on this, and it was funny because I was watching a video of somebody else talking about this briefly and talk about how this would impact Pokemon cards, like the ones that people or companies or business are getting from overseas, like Japan. Tariffs is basically where a company is getting charged with a certain tax for importing products from other countries. That's basically what it is. I'm trying to find the chart. So, for example, let me find the two that we really need to focus on. There's really two that we need to focus on. Here it is. Vietnam, 46% tax, and China, which is 34%. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I mentioning those two countries? Isn't Nintendo a Japan company? Yes, it is. However, here's the thing. Nintendo have their systems made in Vietnam and in China. And if those are coming in from those places, especially Vietnam, that's going to be, like Nintendo of America or whoever it is that receive these products will be charged an extra 46% in taxes. So let's do some math real quick, shall we? I'm about to open up good old calculator. So we know that the Switch 2 costs $499.99, right? We're going to add, or we're going to multiply that by 46%, which is 0.46. So that's $229.90, basically $230. So we're going to say $230 plus $499.99. We are looking at a scenario where if Nintendo are going to reprice their system based off of, the system being taxed to come in from Vietnam, we could be potentially paying at the very least $730 for this system. And that's just by itself, without the Mario Kart World Bundle. And that's if it's coming from Vietnam. Now, let's say it came from China. So, okay. So, let's do that real quick. $449.99 times 0.34. So, that would be $152.99. Basically, $153 because there are going to be more numbers behind that decimal. So, 153 plus $249.99. I mean, not $249.99. $449.99. My bad. That's $602.99. Yeah. And again, that's the system by itself, assuming that it's coming from China. And that's the bare minimum of how much it could be if Nintendo wants to use the tariffs and impact the price. So that's some crazy nonsense right there. And that's just for the system. Who knows what's going to happen with the games? I don't know where the games are made from. That was never brought up. But this is really, really crazy. This is out of control right now. So, and this is another indicator that gaming could be dying. Like console gaming could be dying because of the fact that all this stuff is coming from all these other countries, and this idiot Trump is putting this terrorist crap in. and everything's going to cost more now because of this. So, and then I said console gaming is dying. Even without the tariffs, console gaming is dying because the price of games are going up now. And people, I'm dead serious, people online would justify these prices like, well, yeah, I can see that because back in the day, it used to cost this, and then that would convert over to really this, which is higher than what we got now. And I'm like, okay, back in the day, huh? So we talk about like the 90s. Let me find an example. Let me find an example of like somebody trying to compare the prices to how they are now to what they were like back in the day, because it's actually some funny stuff. It is actually some funny stuff. And there may be some of you guys who are listening to this video or watching this video rather thinking the same thing. Well, let me explain something to you real quick as soon as I can find the post real quick. And it's, if I remember correctly, and that's actually, oh, here's the post right here. So let's take a look at this real quick. Back in the good old days of the Nintendo 64, which I consider to be the greatest system of all time, don't at me, Blast Corps cost $60. Mario Kart 64 is $60. Super Mario 64 is $60. Raid Raid 64 is $65. Star Wars, I can't, this is an old article, so I can't make out what that is. Shadow something, I don't know what that is, but that's $70. Doom 64 is $75. Turok, $75. Gretzky 3D Hockey, $75. Now, looking at this, more than likely, this is not Photoshop. So in case you're wondering, oh, that's not Photoshop, I want to say that's not Photoshop. But again, you got to remember, we talk about the Nintendo 64 from back in the day. You know what else was going on back in the day? Low gas prices, low grocery prices, lower prices on bills. That was a thing back in the day. So even though you may want to say, oh, well, the game prices were similar, you know, to what they were like back in the day, whatever the case may be, or if we were to convert that to what prices are now, we're getting a bargain. All that may be true, but here's the problem. Everything else that was going on around gaming back in the day went up. Everything went up. Gas went up. Groceries went up. Cost of living went up. Basically, food went. Basically, to live a life went up. And you got to factor that in because I'm like, bro, I got to do all this other stuff. I got to pay all this other stuff. I don't have the money to pay for a $100 video game now because this is crap. Because gaming is not a necessity like food, like gas, like living, like electricity, like heat, like water, and like other stuff, like phone bills. Gaming is not a necessity. And yet, they're being charged like they are, and it's like, and even like the necessity being charged high, it's still ridiculous. But this is out of control, and it's going to be a point where people are going to have to make a choice. Either they're going to be spending all that money on the games, or spending money on living. And guess which one's going to win out? Living. Yeah, exactly. So. And this is why I truly believe that the end of console game is going to be is near, because you know Sony and Microsoft are paying attention. Oh, they charging their games for $80. Oh, we're going to be doing the same thing. And then it's going to go up to 90. And then it's going to go up to 100. And at that point, it's like, why people messing with console? At that point, you got to ask a serious question. Why y'all messing with console gaming at that point? PC gaming is the way to go now. Now, I understand that, yeah, you know, you got graphics drivers. Like, they got the new, what is it, the 5080s, the 5090s, and the 5070s, and they are in the thousands and stuff like that. I feel like stuff like that is like, you buy that once, and you straight for 10 years, 20 years, as long as you don't go overboard, as long as you ain't a streamer, you know, as long as you ain't running 7, 8, 9, 10 things at once, as long as you don't have like 5 monitors plug into your driver, whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of money for that one thing. And then afterward, the games is like, there's a lot of indie games you can get for $30 or even less. And then you don't have to pay to play online. All you got to do is just pay that internet bill, you straight. But with consoles, you got to pay the internet bill, and then you got to pay like an online service just to play online. It's like, really? What happened to the days where we could play online for free? Now they charging for that crap. Although I know that's been a thing for a long time now. But when you see PC gamers not paying to play online, Now it's like, yo, wait a minute now. Maybe it's better off being a PC gamer. And you can mod your games. You can mod your games. You can't do that on console. So now it's getting to the point where it's like, yo, we should switch over to PC gaming. And once the likes of Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft seeing more and more people switching over to PC gaming, it doesn't matter what they do. In terms of, oh, our console can do this, our console can do that, and the majority of the time it can't. The majority of the time it can't. And then PC still got y'all beat because we can play games online for free on PC. We can mod our games without dealing with whatever. So it's like, at this point, it's getting to the point where people should be switching over to PC gaming and forget the consoles. So I'll be perfectly honest. The Switch 2, I'm still getting the Switch 2 because it's still a good looking system. Like, despite the prices for the system isn't bad. It's like $50 more than what people thought. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. The games, on the other hand, are like, yeah, I don't know about some of those games now. So the Switch 2 and probably the PlayStation 6, I'll be honest, will be my last gaming consoles that I will ever get. After that, it's strictly PC gaming. It's strictly PC gaming because this is out of control. This is really, really out of control. So there you go with that. And there's some other issues here. And let me see if I can find this one article as well. Okay, so this was off of Nintendo's customer support website. So it's in America, support.nintendo.com. So here's what they say. Nintendo Switch 2 supports both regular game cards and game key cards. Game key cards are different from regular game cards because they don't contain the full game data. Instead, the game key card is your key to downloading the full game to your system via the internet. After it's downloaded, you can play the game by inserting the game key card into your system and start it up like a standard physical game card. So, and they show how a game key card packaging would look like. It would be like in all red, and it would say in the bottom, game key card next to the ESRB rating. So there you go with that. So that's going to be a thing now. So some of these games, you're not getting the actual games. You got to download the game. That's not for every single game that they have for the Switch 2, I want to say. But majority of these, I don't know how many of them will follow the game key card fiasco. How many will be actual physical games. But yeah, this is some crazy stuff right here. This is some crazy stuff right here. So I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. So there's that. I'm going to call it a wrap now. So with all that said, y'all know this is your boy New J Gatsby, aka New Student Nate Smith, saying peace out, y'all, and I'll see y'all next time. Yeah.